In today's masterclass, we'll be covering three shockingly simple steps to make an additional $100,000 or $250,000 in commissions in the next 12 months. And this is doing it without just working 60 plus hours a week. So these sales tactics are selling your soul. And these steps are like deceivingly simple because they're so simple that we have clients who are investing between 7K to 25K a year to help them implement, and they're getting results kind of like Kier Smith here, who went from earning 80 to 90,000 a year to 253,000 year one, and number one on his team. That's a 170K increase in 1 year. Or we have someone like Mike Kelly, who went from earning $135,000 to doubling it, moving to his dream. So he's now an enterprise rep. So that's a 135K increase in 1 year. Or Reed Corliss, who went from 125K to 250K and then 800K the following year. And this is in his mid 20s. So that's a 125K increase in year one, and then a 550K increase in year two. And of course, we literally have hundreds of other examples of clients literally earning more, being the best version of themselves, winning every award, get promoted, and so on and so forth. But that's not the point of why you're watching. So let's talk about who this training is for. So let me ask you, have you ever wanted to be known as the absolute best in sales, or at the very least, be seen as like the go-to person, or maybe in the expert at your company that wins every single award, like President's Club? Drop me in the comments if that's you. If you ever want to be known as one of the go-to people at your company. If that's the case, then this training is for you. If you're struggling to sell, or your results, they've been like an up and down, inconsistent roller coaster that's causing you tons of stress, and you want to consistently excel every single month, quarter, and year, this is for you. Or perhaps some of you might already be at the top of your game and you just want the extra edge to grow and develop even more. This is for you. If you want to build massive confidence in yourself in handling every part of the sales process, from prospecting, discovery, closing, shortening the sales cycle, closing bigger deals, and more, then this training is for you. If you want to create secure financial freedom for your family so you don't have to worry about money and can get rid of that stress, then this training is for you. If you want to be the best version of you that'll make your family and you proud, then this is for you. You might be on the flip side. Maybe you're scared of failing. Maybe you're scared of making mistakes and just maybe not even making the sales or your current job, especially in the current economy. Then this training is also for you. If you're just tired and sick of being average, then this is for you. Now, I want to make sure, because this training is not for everyone. So who is this not for? If you think this is okay, this is like one of those get rich quick things where I'm just gonna do these things and suddenly make money overnight, this is not for you. If you are egotistical and you're thinking, oh, I think I know it all, this training is also not for you. You might as well just jump off the call. If you are not an action taker, this is not for you. Now that we have that out of the way, here's the deal. You can earn an additional $100,000 and to $250,000 or more a year in commissions bonuses, and do it without needing years of experience, sleazy sales tactics, just working harder. And a lot of people don't realize is you are just one refined sales process away from everything you want to achieve in life. It's like driving a car. I want you to imagine you're going on a long 2-day road trip. Like, which car would you prefer to drive? This left one right here or the right one? Okay. Drop in the chat. If you were going to go on a long family road trip, which car would you prefer? The old beater car on the left or brand new Tesla on the right? And of course, we're going to assume there are plenty of gas stations and superchargers along the route as well. So drop me in the chat. All right. Matt says no brainer here. So I'm hoping Matt's going to choose obviously the Tesla and not the old beater car. Let me know in the chat, because this is part of making sure you're actively engaging and learning as part of this process. The reality is, if you choose an old beater car like this, like, you may or may not get to your destination. It's going to burn through gas. It'll probably break down. It's incredibly unsafe. You can't rely on taking a family road trip in this. And honestly, if you choose a Tesla, it'll get you there the safest and fastest way for your family and you. In fact, you can actually even go to better destinations as well, because you can trust will get you there quicker and faster. You might even drive the same route or road there, but one will get you there much faster. And the reality is it's much the same with the refined sales process. If you have the right process, you'll get there much faster, like a Tesla, and you can actually count on it. So it's important to understand that if you are a sales professional, the income you want, the life you want, the marriage you want, the person you want to become is going to be fueled by the sales process you do each day. So I'm going to say that again. If you understand this, please drop me a yes in the chat. The income you want, the life you want, the marriage you want, the person you want to become is going to be fueled by the sales process you do each day. How you run your sales process determines your outputs and your results. And those results directly impact your quality of life. And a refined sales process leads to more predictable outcome of closed deals and commissions earned, in which that creates a better and financially secure life. While a substandard sales process leads to an unpredictable roller coaster of results, which is not really surprising as most people are taught a substandard process. And let me show you exactly what I mean. So these are stats I pulled from RepView, and through the first 3 quarters of this year, only 40% of reps are hitting their quota as an average across all segments. Now, I want you to really internalize that and think about that for a second. By not having a refined sales process, by not having the skills, is leading to 60% of reps missing their numbers. That's their livelihood, the income they deserve, the life they want. They are living on a roller coaster lifestyle of stress. I want you to think about this. Drop this in the chat and let me know, like, how does it feel when you're missing your number consistently? Let me know in the chat there, right? Because I've been there. It feels absolutely terrible. Here's the reality. The right refined sales process equals an automatic cash machine and a massive confidence booster. Now, some of you, if you don't know who I am, you might be asking, how do I know this? The reality is I have firsthand field sales experience, and not just like 2-3 years of it during a bull market where cash was flush and reps were just taking orders, but I have over 13 years of experience, not including from my own business. And before this, it was an outside B2B sales and executive sales leadership roles for 2 major Fortune 500 companies, and was really fortunate to have been promoted 12 times in 8 years, ranked in the top percentile every single year, and I won countless awards like President's Club. And in my last role, I was leading a large sales org of 100 plus employees. We delivered 9 figures a year in new business contracts annually before I retired at 35 to do my own thing. So you can see different pictures here from different awards events. You give massive keynotes, you're riding corporate jets, and obviously more hair. But the most important thing was I had the opportunity to literally develop thousands of reps from brand new to 20 plus years experience in over 100 different countries to have the skills and knowledge to be massively successful in sales. But here's the reality. I didn't start that way. And I pull up this old picture of me. I want to give you a little background. You can see me right there doing some pull-ups with my tiger mom in the picture, right? Like, I was born and raised in Springfield, Oregon, very small town. We grew up dirt poor. My parents were Chinese immigrants that escaped from the communist re-education camp during the Cultural Revolution. Now, they eventually made it to America with no money and only 8th grade education, high school education. And since nobody would hire them, they opened up a Chinese restaurant. You can see a picture right here, Oriental Village. And we all grew up working and pitching in. So I started working at the restaurant at the age of 5, and it was a hard life growing up. And here's a picture of actually our first house. So it's about 1,400 square feet. 6 of us lived there. It was in a bad neighborhood growing up as well. So kids were literally doing and dealing drugs that are 9, 10 years old. So I constantly worry about the restaurant going under, not having stability, and I fear becoming homeless as a kid. So as a result, I grew up just literally working my ass off, and I dreamt of a future job where I can use my brain to make money. I dreamt of wearing suits, making more money than possible, and simply being a confident, important person. So then I graduated in college in 2007. You can see me right here. I got my very first outside sales role for a brand new startup division of a big company. It was full cycle, meaning I had to prospect, present, close, and grow the account. But it was literally brand new, start with 0 clients. Like, I was really excited as a fresh college grad, just ready to take on the world. And then I started and I thought it would be relatively easy because I was told it was a numbers game by my boss. And I knew from my past, I was no stranger to hard work. My boss also gave me like 0 training, 0 direction, but he did give me a manual written by people at corporate. I'd never done the job before. Regardless of that, I started putting in the work. Like, over the next several weeks, I did literally thousands of cold calls on the phone. Also, canvas by foot, along with sending out tons of cold emails. I outworked all of my peers. Now, here's the thing. 6 weeks in, my peers were actually closing deals, and I had yet to close even one deal. And I was in peer panic mode because I was actually now the worst rep in the division. It was even worse than that was I actually felt really slimy and salesy with this approach. Like, I had to convince someone and badger them. And what advice did my boss and everyone tell me to improve my results? Make more calls, send more emails, work harder. At this point, I was mentally in a bad spot. And even worse, I wasn't making any money. I worried about paying my rent, getting groceries. The economy was falling apart around me, and I was worried about getting fired as my boss threatened me with a PIP, a performance improvement plan. I was struggling. I had literally 0 confidence. I was completely stressed out of my mind. I knew I really had 3 options, which is, number 1, I had to figure it out. Number 2, get fired trying. Or number 3, quit trying to get another sales job or go into a totally different role unrelated to sales. Now, I really didn't like 2 or 3 because the job market wasn't really great during the recession. So I decided to try to figure it out unless option 2 happened first. So after about 2 months of pure failure and struggle, I discovered what I'm going to share with you in a moment in more detail. The three super simple steps that accelerate explode my results skyrocketed to number one. And this is my third month in sales. And actually, didn't feel sleazy doing it. And I was really fortunate. I held the number one spot for 3 more months, and then was asked to be a peer leader over the worst operation over two of my peers, which are the very bottom of the division. But despite not having like a brand new unworked territory, zero pipeline, more responsibility, I was really fortunate to stay number one for the next 6 months, earning 2 more promotions. So here's a few pictures of my first award trips I won. This is a 5-star resort in Cancun. And those other two peers I mentioned, I taught them too. They went from the bottom and top to number 2 and number 3. So my results continue to skyrocket every single year as I sold more, and I end up averaging over $600,000 a year in earnings by my early 30s, consistently exceeded quota. I kept getting promoted, winning awards, and just basically built bulletproof confidence. So it got to the point where I was able to essentially retire at 35, do whatever I wanted. So that's why I decided to start helping tech AEs and BB sell or more around the world. I actually then applied the same refined sales process to my own business. And we've been really fortunate to have some decent success. So for instance, in 5 years in the business, we brought in close to 700 coaching clients from all types of industries, from SaaS, cybersecurity, IT, managed solutions, payroll, HRIS, consulting, agencies, capital equipment, hardware, and way more. And they're crushing it, whether they work for large companies like a Salesforce, a HubSpot, a Paychex, ADP's, Dell, Zoom, Auth0, MuleSoft, Dynatrace, Xerox, whatever, to even smaller privately held companies that are not even doing $1 million annual revenue. So in fact, we've actually been pretty fortunate to recognized for our results, Forbes, Yahoo Finance, and more, and just dozens of other publications as well. And Salesforce also recommends one top sales influencers to follow. I even wrote and launched an international best-selling book in under 5 months. Here's the thing. I have to iterate. I'm nobody special. Like, in my heart, I'm still just that really awkward, introverted Asian kid that grew up dirt poor. The kid that my parents thought I had issues because I didn't start speaking until I was 4, and I had speech impediment for years. So I'm nobody special. I've just learned a refined sales process is the fastest vehicle to a fortunate life of financial freedom, bulletproof confidence achievements. And it's not just for me, but for all those in BB sales. So for instance, Tony Tosuk here, he's an AE that was struggling and was completely missing his number. Now he's earning 5-figure commission checks and crushing his quota. Or Josh Patino, who's relatively new in sales. In fact, he went 0 deals in 6 months. We started working with him in 7 weeks of executing coaching. He goes $308,000 in that time, earning $23K in commissions. Or Samantha Price make $500K a few months into the year. And of course, we have plenty of other examples. And I know you're probably like, I don't care about any of this, right? So let me just show you how you can do it as well. I always have to give this a warning for all trainings because I do not want you to mistake simplicity for lack of effectiveness. The concepts are really simple, but does not mean it's easy. Open-minded reps that actually will get results. Closed-minded reps might as well just stop watching. So let's go and dive in on how to refine my sales process and create a cash flow so you can do the same thing as well. So let's talk about the solution. So as a bird's eye view, there are 3 deceptively simple steps. So number 1, step 1, we're going to niche down. Step 2, we're going to craft conversion conversations. And step 3, we're going to construct a customer-centric sales system. And we're going to dive into each one. So let's dive into the first one. What's really important is I have to first show you what I was doing and what others are teaching that was wrong. And it's really important to identify this now because this is why most people never achieve the success they're after. Most people think it's information that they lack. And if that was truly the case, the invention of Google and ChatGPT and other AI tools would have made everyone on here millionaires. All right. But that's not the case. Okay. So reality is lack of information isn't the problem. It's finding the right information and coupling it with consistent daily action. Drop me a 3 if you agree with that statement, which is lack of information isn't the problem. It's finding the right information and coupling with consistent daily action. So let's talk about the solution. All right. So first off, step number 1. Let's niche down. Now, I pulled out some sweet pictures to kind of spice this up so you can learn from the visuals as well. But when I first got started in sales, I was told to do the spray and pray method. Okay. This is to go after anybody and everybody. And my first day, I was told to go physically by foot to businesses. And I remember I was very excited to do this at first. Now, I walked over into over 60 businesses that day. And I definitely closed 0 deals and I booked 0 appointments, but I didn't give up. I tried again the next day, another 60 different businesses, over 60 businesses. And unfortunately, really similar results. This is when defeat started to settle in. And I asked my boss what to do. And he told me it was time to start making calls and that sales is a numbers game. Like, who's ever been told this, right? Who's ever been told that sales numbers game? Let me know in the chat. Now, I spent the next 2 days calling Every single one of the business cards I collected multiple times, along with search lists in our CRM. I made over 80 calls that day, and I still booked 0 appointments. I couldn't believe it because I actually physically walked into 120 businesses. I made over 160 plus cold calls with nothing to show for it. So 280 touches with not a single positive response. And the rejection started to wear on me as I felt like a complete failure. I went to my boss and I literally almost cried in his office because I felt like literally like a loser. So I asked him for his help and his advice. And what was his sage advice, Marcus? Make more calls, send more emails, work harder. It's a numbers game. And I remember going home that Friday and I felt like a complete failure. I felt like I was letting everyone down. My girlfriend, who I wanted to propose to, her parents, who didn't like that I was in sales, my own parents, who wanted me to be a doctor and lawyer. But most of all, I felt like I was letting myself down. I wanted to quit my job, but I was really worried I wouldn't pick another job as we head towards a recession. So the next week, I called up another rep in another state had pretty solid success despite the recession. And I asked how she was getting appointments. And she shared with me a really simple strategy. She called on prospects that she had seen with fleets of box trucks. And I forgot to mention that first role was we leased and rented box trucks and pickup trucks. Okay. Now, her logic was if they had trucks, they would have a need or eventually have a need. And what was interesting was I'm like, huh, it clicked. I had been calling on businesses, just totally different industries. I was trying so hard to convince prospects I would have zero need. It was like trying to sell steaks to a vegan. Like my product was not for the mass market, but that's my approach to prospecting, if you will. Like we were not a Amazon for everyone, but more like a boutique shop instead. Different customers, different approaches for messaging. So that night, I started making a list of key characteristics of ideal customers. I hyper focused on niche industries that had the highest likelihood to use us. So, and I'll cover a little more in step 2 on this. It only took about 15 minutes, but I had a pretty good list. And here's a shocker: not a single one that I called in the past week was remotely close to being his ideal customer. So that next day, I did a search of a new list that matched my new parameters. And I started to dial. And what ended up happening was I actually, after 4 hours, I actually had booked 4 appointments. Now, it wasn't anything crazy, but that was 4 more appointments I'd ever booked. So I was ecstatic. Now, what's even more fascinating was a more targeted niche list led to actually better calls, meaning I made less calls and booked more meetings. I actually felt better, and so my prospects. So fast forward 3 months as I continue to refine my sales process and scripts. I shot to number one and held the number one spot for the next 3 months. So that was when I was actually asked to take over completely different territory, causing me to lose my pipeline. Now, fortunately, I learned from my mistakes at least at that point. I went to this new territory and I came in hyper focused on the right target market. And as the saying goes, the riches are in the niches. And I fortunately, number of the next 6 months, earning 2 more promotions. This is all due to identifying and hyper focus on industries that are most likely to use our solution. And the cool part is like the first step, like literally anybody can do this. Okay. It's not rocket science. All right. So for instance, here, my client Julian Rojas is a great example. Always solid in sales, but wanted to level up. Okay. He was no stranger to hard work, but wanted to get more effective at his game. He executed when I taught him, started booking way more meetings immediately. In fact, he secured some monster enterprise level meetings. Like you can see it right here. Over 400K qualified pipeline as a result. Or my client Hema here, I she has no sales experience, started an incredible software business, but struggled to get qualified meetings to close deals. She did exactly what we discussed here. And within a day, she's booked 5 meetings off of LinkedIn and one with even the exec at a billion-dollar company. Or Christian here, it's a little smaller accounts, but he went from booking 0 off outbound to completely packing his calendar with a few tiny tweaks, literally back to back with hyper qualified prospects. Now, you might have a few questions such as, what if I don't know which niche to go after? That's totally normal, especially if you do this mass blasting exercise, if you will. Keep it simple. Do you have existing customers and clients? What industries are they in? Start with those and expand out based on similar functions. So, for instance, in that very first job I was doing of literally selling lease like box trucks and commercial vehicles, if I had a customer delivered refrigerators for Macy's, all I had to think was, hey, what other businesses deliver furniture or like things to people's homes? AKA, what's a similar use case? And the answer that came to me was, hey, furniture companies, electronics companies, carpet companies, whatever. So my point is keep it super simple, especially from a use case perspective. Or you might be thinking or asking yourself, what if I don't have enough leads or opportunities in this specific niche? That could happen, especially if you're super niche down. But remember, once you maximize the opportunity in that niche, you can expand that based on similar functional use cases. If you focus on not having enough leads, you'll start believing that. you start believing create new leads, you'll make that happen too. So for instance, when I got started, I actually had the smallest territory. So we did it by zip codes. Everyone else had 10 to 20 zip codes that were densely populated. I had 4 zip codes. I thought the same thing at first until I truly opened my eyes, and obviously the rest is history. Or you might be thinking, hey, I sell to everyone. So you might have a solution that you sell that goes to a little more of a mass market. Should everyone be targeted? To a certain degree, yes. But remember this, each industry is very different how they may describe their issues, how they'll use your software, your solution. When you niche down, you will better the prospects and you can target niche by niche to maximize conversion. So, for example, let's just say if you work for a company like Spectrum Internet, technically you can sell to everyone. But if you were selling to Bill, who owns a like a local bar and grill, versus a Fortune 1000 tech company CTO, it's very different in messaging. Now, as a recap, niching down results in faster and better results. All right. And if you're following along so far, just drop me a 2 in the chat. So next, let's go into step 2 for the puzzle. So we want to craft conversion conversations. And let me ask you, have you ever answered a phone call from a telemarketer? Let me know in the chat, even if it's active, if you ever answered a phone call from a telemarketer. All right. I can almost see like the cringe on your face that most of us, right, have received one of those calls. And once you answer, they go into this like 60-second pitch. And the problem is that most telemarketers were given a really lengthy standard pitch script to begin with. And they were told, hey, it's a numbers game. So every day they deal with a high rejection rate, just talking to gatekeepers, low response rates to emails, low connect rates to decision makers. And they just assume that's how it's supposed to be done. And by the way, this is across the board for many industries, for all AEs, even though there are better ways. And let me give you a really specific example here. So I was a brand new sales manager, and I was benchmarking with the team in San Jose, California, Gilroy, California to be specific. And I was in the bullpen with 2 of the reps. They're actually brothers, twin brothers, George and Carlos. Both were new but decent reps. But I could see them struggling on the phones. And I asked them if they were open to some coaching. They both agreed. So I started diving deep into their challenges, and they actually shared with me how frustrated and demoralizing it was to keep getting gatekeepers shutting them down constantly, or if they weren't rejected, the decision makers seemed to always be in a meeting or busy, right? And they felt frustrated that when they did get a hold of the decision maker, they do their best, but would still get shut down. And by law and numbers, okay, they would book some appointments and close some deals, but they hated their job and felt like quitting. And I don't know if any of you have ever felt that way. If you have, let me know in there. I felt that way. Okay. Now, I told them not to quit, and that the issue that they had was they spoke a language than their prospect. And they look a little confused. And I explained, hey guys, listen, the words and questions you use are not the same as the niche industry you're speaking into. In essence, it's as if they speak Chinese and you're talking to them in English. There's a disconnect in the messaging and the audience, and that automatically leads to less meetings and deals. And this applies across the board, by the way, from cold calls, emails, direct messages, any copy, even if you did physical letters, whatever. And they look a little confused. And I went a little bit deeper, and I taught them about the perfect prospect avatar. And the mistake a lot of people make is when they're thinking about their target market, they really only focus on a specific industry or job title or function, and maybe some basic demographics. And although those can help, it must be niched out even more. The prospect must feel as if you are reading their mind. And that goes beyond basic demographics such as industry, job titles, geography, whatever. And let me give you some specific examples. What are their deepest desires, their deepest needs and want, their deepest fears? What truly makes them worry? Their biggest hot button? What drives them crazy? Frustrates them more than anything? Their biggest internal limiting beliefs, the biggest external limiting belief, what would remove their stress, and so on and on. Now, what's even more important for all those things you want to know is the why behind each one. This is going deep into the psyche of the prospects. They should feel as if you are in their head, and it should pass the whisper test. Now, you might be asking, what's the whisper test? Let me explain. I want you to imagine your ideal prospect. They're at dinner with their spouse, and you come over and you whisper. They don't know you, by the way. And you come over and you say, hey, I know you're struggling with X, and Y makes you so stressed, makes you want to quit. And Z is giving you crazy stress migraines. I can get rid of all that for you. Would you be open to a conversation? And they immediately look at you and they're like, what the heck? How's this guy know that my inside? I don't know who this person is, but they rushed away from dinner from their spouse and they want to find out more because they're like shocked that you basically know everything about them internally. That's passing the whisper test. Now, in a nutshell, all messaging must be customized as a framework to them, a conversion conversation to fit the perfect prospect avatar. So at this point, going back to George and Carlos, I started working with them. We started to map this out on a whiteboard. We completely rewrote their phone script into a shorter and simpler phone framework that had the perfect prospect avatar components built in. We literally cut down their scripting from like 60 seconds down to 20, 25 seconds. We built out a hype target, like niche list of prospects, which is from step one from earlier. Now I could tell they were like on the fence still a little bit. Okay, I think this sounds too easy almost. I told them to trust me. They did. And they started dialing within 2, 3 hours. They both had booked 8 appointments each. They were fired up because it used to take them like a couple weeks to book that many. And what was interesting was they also said decision makers were more open to talk and the conversations were deeper than better before. I explained why. Like decision makers know now when they're talking to someone actually worth the time because they actually feel heard. And it's clear it's not just some poorly trained rep calling out that knows nothing about their business. They came off as an expert to the prospect, a trusted advisor. So as a result of crafting really simple, hyper-personalized conversion conversations, their booking ratio skyrocketed and they booked more qualified meetings than ever before. And yes, this applies to all types of messages. This is whether it's emails, direct messages, videos, cold calls, whatever. And actually, after this, we all became really good friends because both their income skyrocketed and both hit President's Club every single year and got promoted multiple times, all while creating a better life for their families. So, in fact, you can actually see this is actually at one of the many President's Club we're here together. That's obviously me. And this is like the twin brothers, George and Carlos, right here. In fact, actually, this guy was actually one of my reps as well at President's Club, became a sales manager in President's Club. Actually, when I left corporate, he became my backfill. He's President's Club rep as well, my team as well. This is someone's husband. This is a guy down in California who's also awesome too. But my point here is this: anybody can do this, right? Some of us are special, all right? For example, Alex Sukula here, he's booking more meetings across the board. He even booked a meeting with Dow Chemical, a $63 billion org. And the really cool part is he works for a smaller like startup without really brand recognition. All right, pretty cool. But it's not just for prospecting. The conversion conversation applies to all parts of the process. Deal Longstaff here, who crushed as a BDR and now as an AE, he's crushing it as well. Or Steve here, who's closing 650K deals in the recession like it's no big deal. Or Avi Pai here, who's doing 140% to his annual target in 10 months, and he hit Prensco's first year in sales. Now, you might be asking yourself, hey, that sounds cool, but like, how do I learn the inner depths of what's on my perfect prospect's mind? It's super normal to worry about this. It's actually easier than you think. So a few simple ways. Go where they hang out. It's that simple. All right. So it could be forums, chat rooms, social media groups. It could be books that they're reading. It could be events. If you pay close attention to their conversations, you will see questions and comments, and they'll tell you literally exactly what you want to know. And you can just ask. Don't overcomplicate it, right? You can go back to some of your customers and just seek to understand. You'd be surprised on what you hear. Now, you might be thinking, that sounds like it'll take some time. That's true. But I want you to see it as an investment of your time. Like doing it up front will pay you dividends in confidence and results. Now you might be thinking, what do I do next? Like, how do I write out the messaging for cold calls, it's emails, or direct messages, etc.? Keep it really super simple and short. I want you to imagine if each word costs you $100 to write. You want to keep your cost as low as possible now without sacrificing the quality of the message. Then test and refine it until you get the booking ratio response rate that you actually desire. Now, as a recap, you want to create hyper-personalized conversion conversation frameworks. You'll book more and you'll close more as well. Let's go to step number 3. Construct a customer-centric sales system. Now, this is tying all together from steps 1 and 2 and now 3. And let me explain how I figured this out. Because if you recall, in my first 2 months attempting to sell, I was at the very bottom of the stack rankings. I was struggling. I had some appointments, but I closed 0 deals at that point. And I remember at that same time, my boss pulled me into his office at 4 p.m. on a Friday, which if that's ever happened to you, that's never a good sign. And he didn't fire me, but he definitely reamed me and he threatened me with a PIP, the performance improvement plan. Now, at this point, I was more scared lost than I had ever been before, and I had no idea how to improve my results. The following week, I had a doctor's appointment for my annual checkup, and It was a pretty normal doctor visit, but my doctor uncovered my blood pressure and cholesterol levels actually increased pretty significantly since the prior year. And my doctor recommends some changes in my diet and exercise that are pretty much opposite to what I was doing. So I'll pretty much a college grad. I was used to eating like tons of carbs, pizza, pasta, rice, baked good, and lots of meat, and just literally just lifting really heavy weights. And my doctor essentially told me to do everything the opposite. Okay. More fruits and veggies, cut out sugar and salt, and to do like carb at least 3 to 5 times a week. However, I happily agreed. And I remember like that night, I'm laying in bed thinking about these changes I was going to make and how excited I was to do these. But then I thought to myself, wait a minute, how did my doctor convince me to completely change my behavior and change my eating and workout habits? Ultimately, how did she sell me? How did she persuade me and make me so willingly open to change behaviors that I've been doing for over a decade? But here's the thing, she didn't sell me at all. She actually like barely talked. I talked the entire time. And as I thought more about it, all she did, she just asked me a lot of questions. And I realized she knew my goal was to get healthy. And then she asked me more questions to cover all my needs, desires, and problems. And then she aligned a really simple solution to my needs, desires, and problems. The thing was, even before she made a recommendation, I was already sold on having to make a change. I'm gonna say it again. Even before she made a recommendation, I was already sold on having to make a change based on the 15 minutes question she asked. It was 100% clear I had a huge problem. It would cost me a lot if I didn't fix it. And once I was really clear on that, she made a simple recommendation that I willingly agreed to. It was like she knew the goal and worked backwards to get there. And as a patient, I felt really good about it. And a light bulb went off at that point. Like I could apply the same concept to a sales process. I could reverse the sales process. I can begin with the end goals in mind and then ultimately ask questions and cover their needs, desires, and problems. Then I can align my solution to what I can cover. And this actually made a lot of sense because I was doing the opposite. I would actually come in, barely ask a question, maybe ask just a couple questions, and then spend most of the time trying to pitch or demo my solution, like 89% of the time. I was literally going on appointments, asking a few questions, and then just demoing and dropping as many features and benefits of our product as possible. Just like trying to like throw all these things on the wall. I could literally see on my prospects' faces, they didn't like that. And they couldn't wait for me to leave, or they say, oh, send me some digestive salt, send me some more information. Let me get back to you. Right. Now, it was not a customer-centric process. So that night, I mapped out on just a piece of scratch paper and I began with my prospects' goals in mind. And I mapped out questions I'd have to ask to get there. And I pictured going on a road trip. Like I knew like the end destination right here. And then I map out the path to get there. And the car here, I'm like, all right, cool. This is I just work backwards to here so I can get to there. And the following week, I tested it. I ran all my appointments, asked any questions I came up with. I spent about 90% of each appointment asking questions and only 10% really demoing and presenting and showing and pitching to them and aligned to what I learned. Now, I only had 5 appointments. They weren't big deals, but I closed 4 out of 5 appointments. Again, very small deals, but I closed 4 out of 5. Like I closed 80% with this method and it worked. And literally, my results got better overnight. That's when I knew I was on to something. Okay. This is a customer centric system. It was not about my company, my solution, my features and benefits, or me. It was all focused on the customer, just like my doctor focused on me, the patient. And then I realized I had an even bigger realization that it wasn't just a discovery part of the process to ask questions. It started with actually the mindset, right? Asking the right internal questions to frame my mind, and then it was same with prospecting, right? To discovery, presenting. It really is a whole process was that way. Every part was impacted by how ask questions. And this is how true experts sell. And it made me realize it gave them more trust, more credibility, and positioned them as the expert. And this ultimately led to more meetings, more closed deals, more commissions, somebody just feeling better about how they sold because they're truly serving the customer. Now, I continue to focus and refine this even more. I started booking way more appointments immediately. Like before, it would take me like a couple weeks, maybe even a month to book 4 or 5 appointments. Now, in 2 to 3 hours, I was booking 8 to 10 new appointments. Like I finished number 1 that month and did 5x with the second place person. Then I held the number 1 spot 9 months ago, earning 2 more promotions. This is all due to execute on a refined customer centric sales process. Like when you and system. When you focus on the customer and you ask more questions and the right questions for every single step of the sales process, your results will go up. And the better you get at this, the more appointments you'll get, the more deals you'll close, the more you'll exceed your quota, the more you will earn. Now, what I found here, again, it's not about making more calls. When you actually focus on refining every part of your sales process, asking better questions, you get better results with the same amount of effort. And let me show you exactly what I mean. We're just going to do the math together. I want you to see this. All right. So there's a lot of things. I'm going to simplify this down. Let's just say, for example, if you have a base out of $100,000, yours might be more, it might be less. You're averaging $100 a week for this example. You might be more, but let's go call it 100. Let's just say, for example, you have an average gatekeeper bypass ratio of 7%. Okay. And let's assume you have a appointment booking ratio. So you get a conversation with the decision maker, 20% are actually booked. Let's say your closing rate is 25%. Okay. Let's say on average commits $2,500, right? It's just numbers I made up here. Let's just say, for example, if you ran this math, you're averaging, we'll call it $142,000 a year. Now, let's go into more activity. Let's just say, for example, the average person, by the way, and most leaders say, hey, you're doing not bad. If you want to make more money, we want to hit more, we want to sell more. What we should do is we should increase your activity. So they say, let's go ahead and increase your activity. Let's just get you to 200 dials. Cool. Because if you do 200 dials, if you just double your activity, you will make $184,000. So that's not bad. So you went from 142 to 184. So you're making $42,000 more. Hey, that's great. You're making more money. All you have to do is work harder, put in more hours to do that. Or some will say, hey, that's doing pretty good. Let's just get you to like $300 a week. Okay. You get 300. Okay. Now you're doing $300. You're doing like 3x activity. So you put even more hours. But guess what? Now you're making more money. You went from 142 to 226,000, right? That's like what most people do. Now, realistically, you're probably not going to 3x it. So let's say, for example, let's just say you 2x it. Okay. So you go 2x it. So you're making under 200,000, you make $184,000. You could do that, right? You could just work harder and make more calls. All right. Now, what happens though if you actually get better at different skills instead? So let's just say we'll go back to the very original base number, right? 142. Let's just say, for example, we'll keep activity exactly the same, but we get far more effective and more skilled at different parts of the problem. We refine your sales process. Let's say, for example, the average gatekeeper bypass ratio, let's say it gets to 10%. Oh, interesting. You're already making more money. All right. Let's just say you get better on the phone. So instead of booking only, 20%, 1 out of 5, you get yourself to 50%. Just by doing that, you're already making more money. Let's say you get better at the rest of the sales process from how you multi-thread, run discovery, your demos, etc., and you get yourself to, let's call it 28%. Now, by just simply doing that, you're earning $268,000. In fact, you're doing the same level of activity as you were doing the first situation, but you're far more skilled. So if you compare to even more activity, you're actually earning still more. This person would double the activity, and you're actually making way more than them still. You're making 184 minus 268. You're making, $80,000 more by being more skilled. And here's the thing: I didn't even talk about if you're better at actually like selling large opportunities, you have to go after big opportunities, or being able to create more value and pain, so you actually penetrate the account better. So suddenly, if you're able to do that as well, you're more skilled there. Let's say, for example, you don't go crazy. Maybe you get your commission to average of $3,500 per deal. Now you're making $335,000 a year. So the reality is, you could for sure work harder. You could just double your activity, make a little more money, or when you actually improve your skills, you get really good. But here's the cool part. This is what we've seen for the people who really internalize this. They say, okay, this is interesting. So maybe what I can do instead is I actually want to make less calls. Let me give myself to, let's say, call it 60 calls a week, but I want to make sure I'm super good on the phones. Let's just say the gatekeeper bypass will keep at 10%, but we get real good at booking the meetings. Get yourself to 80%. All right. And let's say we get a closing ratio, not just 28%, which is okay. We get yourself to 35%. And we get the average deal size commission to go up as well. Let's call it even 4,000. But let's say on top of that, you want to take more vacation. Okay. So instead of 48 work weeks, let's say, for example, you want to take 2 more weeks on top of that, and now you're at 46. So if you compare these two still, now you're making 409,000 versus 184,000. You're actually working less, but you're far more effective at your game. In fact, you take a look at your comp plan, 142,000, you're basically adding an extra 200, whatever that difference is, over $200,000 more, 200, $50,000 more by simply becoming more skilled at the game. Or you could just work harder and you work harder, you double base your activity, you work more hours, and you maybe make 40K more. I share this with you because this is the key to success. All right. Is you understand Improving your skills and running a refined sales process will make you far more money and give you far more leverage. Now, I have to iterate again, like I'm nobody special because really anybody can do this. All right. And obviously, we have examples of this. For example, Jordan here, he struggled selling B2B. He was doing what I was trying to do early on, which is trying to run a really high activity model of numbers and just pitch. Within 4 days of learning this, he closed $16,000 for executing a refined customer centric sales process. Or we have Preston here, who's a very hard worker, but wasn't the results he wanted. So we started working with him, and he prospected and closes a deal that will pay out $90,000. It's a $900,000 deal. Okay. Or William here, who went from missing his number, literally almost sold his car to join our program, to 327% to quota number one. All right. Buying a house and getting groomed to be a salesman. And this is all within 90 days. So as you can see, he's earning more. His confidence is insanely high. Now, you might be wondering, how do I know what questions to ask? So if you've done steps 1 and 2, you've already done some of the heavy lifting. Now it's taking the time to work backwards, craft questions that'll lead to the answer you're actually looking for. And you want to keep it really simple. And you might be asking, do any experience know what to ask? No, you don't. You just got to start a little bit of research first, like I mentioned, to do this. Okay. As you gain some experience, you can refine the questions even more. It's about imperfect action. You'll get a result and then you refine more from there. You might be asking yourself, hey, won't it seem like I'm interrogating them? Just like anything else, you want to make it conversational. Keep an eye on your tone and how you ask the questions. The magic lays really in the follow-up questions after you ask the base questions that you've mapped out. Or you might be thinking, don't you spend a lot of time trying to pitch them? You actually do not. One of the biggest mistakes I see sales pros make is they go into information overload on their prospect. They share every possible feature. Even the prospect has not shared, they have a specific issue that feature would solve. Like information overload leads to prospect feel overwhelmed and need more time to process it. So keep it really simple and only present based on what you uncovered in the discovery. Now, as a recap, a refined customer centric sales process and system is the fastest way to be positioned as an expert and generate sales results. And when you hyper target down on a niche industry, you craft hyper personalized conversion conversation frameworks to your perfect prospect avatar, and you use a tight and refined customer centric sales process, you can increase your income $100,000 to $250,000 plus this year without working hard, making thousands of cold calls. Now, what's a common theme of all these steps I've shared with you so far? They take into account the value of time and bringing you more of it. You cannot get more time, so we need to maximize the time that we actually have. And this is why when you look at a rep who's earning $500K to $1 million a year earner, they have the same amount of time as someone making $50,000. And the easiest way to maximize the time is to decrease the amount of time it takes to achieve something. And it's about being wildly efficient with your sales process and gaining back time. So you have to ask yourself, do you know the best methods to proper research on your target market? Do you have proven methods and frameworks for cold calling, emailing, direct messaging, social selling, whatever, that leads to actual booked qualified appointment? Do you know exactly what are the most important income producing activities, IPAs, you must be doing every single day to get the results you actually want? Do you know the exact routine you should run of a top performer? Have asked all the questions to effectively guide a sales process to move forward or to close, especially during uncertain times. Do you have proven frameworks to present massive value and destroy objections? Do you know the most effective way to create urgency so your prospects feel compelled to take action fast? Do you know the fastest way to shorten down your sales cycle? Do you know exactly what to do to deliver results without just working harder? And do you have a sales operating system of a top 1% performer? Now, if you don't know any or just some of these, it's important to find someone who does so you can maximize your time. And there's a lot of noise out there, so do recommend you look for someone that you can actually relate to. Probably someone who's been exactly where you are and exactly where you want to be. Someone with thousands of student testimonials and a growing engaged community. Or you can take the information from this training and try to figure it out on your own. You will probably eventually figure it out. But I promise you, it will cost you a lot more in money, time, and opportunity costs. And it's not the money that hurts, it's the time and opportunity cost that actually hurts. You trial and hopefully some form of success in some way. Now, this could easily take you thousands of cold calls, hundreds of sales calls, dozens of lost deals and opportunities, and more, easily over 6 months to 12 months or more to figure this out. But let's be real here. Most people never figure it out. And that's why they have a roller coaster of a career and why most have to change sales jobs every 18 and 24 months just to survive and not thrive. Now, if you like numbers, let's assume your current comp plan max is $350,000. Again, yours might be more, might be less. Let's just say you're earning $180,000. Okay. You might be more, might be less. Let's just say whatever you're averaging. Each year, though, you're not maxing out is costing you the difference. So in this example, that's $170,000. If you're making 180,000, your comp is 350 max. Okay. And it could be more depending on your max. And this is your actual opportunity cost. Of course, all the things you miss out on the extra income. So what could you do with the extra money? $170,000. This means you could be investing it. You could be buying real estate. You could be going on vacations more. You could be paying off debt. You could be sending your kids to private school. You could be retiring your spouse if they want that. You could be starting side houses or businesses. It could be your freedom choice of doing whatever you want. It could be achieving escape velocity and leaving the rat race. It could be buying fun toys. It could whatever. The reality is that your true opportunity cost of average sales performance is not having the life you dream of for your family and you. And the longer it takes you, the more it costs you. And here's the reality: you do not get that time back. So the longer you don't max your potential out, the more it'll actually cost you. Or you could work with someone who's already mastered it and has more proven results than almost anyone else in the industry for literally a fraction of the cost, in which clients are getting results within 1 to 2 days of working with us. Okay. Now, when you look at the bigger picture, working with us shouldn't actually cost you money, as you get it back 5 to 10x annually when you execute. And just to be clear, this is for those who are in tech or B2B sales who are wanting to earn an additional $100,000 more, $250,000 more a year, whether you are brand new, been doing this for a long time, or for a short amount of time, whether you're struggling and scared of failing, making mistakes, or doing well already. If you want to become the best version of yourself, a top performer, and earn for your family, then this is for you. Like Reed here, who I shared earlier, who went from doing well, making 125K a year, to 250K in 11 months. Even the top 3 out of 600 plus reps, hit President Circle, is getting national recognition, got him promoted. The following year, he hit $800,000 in earnings. That's a 125K increase in year 1, 800,000 or 500,000 increase in year 2. Not bad. Or Travis Whitman here went from earning 130K to 281K in 11 months. He finished number 1 out of 100 reps and over 200% of quota. Earning an extra $150,000 plus is not bad. Or Sam here, who actually was earning just 40K a year to $121,818 in 10 months. An 81K increase in year 1. The following year, over $270,000. That's 150K increase in year 2. Not bad. Or Chelsea Behringer went from earning 118K to 225K her first year. That's 107K more. She even says in this text to me that I should charge more. Or Josh Patino, who's doing 223% to target in his annual target in 7 months. He even bought his family the dream home this year. Or Mark went from struggling 200% to target. Or Joe, who did decent before, but more of an order taker. There was no transformational deals. Once I started working with them, consistently crushing the top reps. This is an example of the most recent deals he closed. Then I'll pay him $600,000 to start, and we'll go to multiple 7 figures in commission as they expand out. Almost 10x the biggest deal in the company history. Or Nick here, I started mentoring him early on, and he was struggling to close new logos. Within 2 weeks, closed 6 new logos. That's 3x what he closed in the prior 2 months combined. But he's actually having more fun, as he says here, selling than he ever had in a long time. He's even earned back his investment in 27 days. Or Joe here, who was second guessing himself within 4 months. He hit his annual quota, number 1 in the country, and first person to do it. He's already earned $200,000 commission checks this year. He'll make $500K this year, while his prior best year was $250,000.